figured for the first video on this channel I'd start with something pretty short. I've got the Triumph 1200 Scrambler XE. I got it up to 10,000 miles, so it needed to go in for the service. I washed it like I normally do, and when I went to restart it, everything was fine until I put it in first gear and put the kickstand up. It immediately killed the engine. So basically it was unrideable. Couldn't get it down to the shop. I called up the San Diego Triumph dealer and they were really helpful. Went out onto the floor and looked at one of the models he had and let me know that it's a magnetic sensor as opposed to some of the mechanical sensors that some of the other bikes have. So the first thing he had me do is make sure that both the components were there. There's one that attaches to the frame, and then the other part of the sensor attaches to the kickstand. When the kickstand goes up, it meets the other one and basically shows that there's a connection between the two. Now when I first looked, both of the components were there. Later I figured out that something, and might have been the stand that I was using for the motorcycle when I was washing it, pushed the sensor on the kickstand side so that it was not making contact. So for me, it's actually a pretty easy fix. I just made sure that the sensor was back in a place that when it's up, it'll be close enough to the sensor mounted on the frame to make the connection that it needs to allow the bike to start. Now the dealer had told me that sometimes the sensor actually falls off the kickstand or gets broken or something where they need to replace it. So I kind of figured, well, what would somebody do if it was to fall off? How would they actually get the motorcycle to the dealer without having to call some kind of a tow service? The first thing I wanted to do is I had some magnets that were just stuck to my refrigerator, and I wanted to see if they would trigger the sensor and basically bypass it. I was actually surprised when it worked. So in a worst case scenario, if your sensor actually falls off the kickstand or gets broken off or something like that, you could take one of these magnets and I would assume just setting it on there would probably fall off when you're hitting bumps or something like that, but you could probably tape it or, you know, temporarily glue it to the sensor to where it'll actually trigger it and basically bypass the kickstand sensor. So I just wanted to record something real quick to kick off this channel so it's not completely empty. I'll be creating more content based on projects that I'm doing by myself, hence the name GoSolo, and hopefully it'll be somewhat informative.